The smell of blood. It was on his breath. What does he do, I think? Drink it? I imagine him sipping it from a teacup, dipping a cookie into the stuff and pulling it out, dripping red. Outside the window, a car comes to life, soft and quiet, like the purr of a cat, and it fades away into the distance. It slips off as it arrived, unnoticed. The room seems to be spinning in slow, lopsided circles. I wonder if I might black out. I lean forward and clutch the desk with one hand. The other still holds Peta's beautiful cookie. I think it had a tiger lily on it, but now it's been reduced to crumbs in my fist. I didn't even know I was crushing it, but I guess I had to hold on to something while my world veered out of control. A visit from President Snow. Districts on the verge of uprising. A direct death threat to Gail. With others to follow. Everyone I love doomed. And who knows who else will pay for my actions. Unless I turn things around on this tour, quiet the discontentment, and put the president's mind to rest. And how? By proving to the country beyond any shadow of doubt that I love Peta Melmar? I can't do it, I think. I'm not that good. Peta's the good one, the likable one. He can make people believe anything. I'm the one who shuts up and sits back, lets him do as much talking as possible. But it isn't Peta who has to prove his devotion. It's me. I can hear my mother's light, quick treads in the hall. She can't know, I think. Not about this. I reach my hands over the tray and quickly brush the bits of cookie from my palm and fingers. I take a shaky sip of tea. Is everything all right, Katniss? She asks. It's fine. We never see it on television, but the president always visits the victors before the tour to wish them luck, I say brightly. My mother's face floods with relief. Oh, I thought there was some kind of trouble. No, not at all, I say. The trouble will start when my prep team sees how I've let my eyebrows grow back in. My mother laughs, and I think about how there's no going back after I took over caring for the family when I was 11. How I've always protected her. Why don't I start you a bath? She asks. Great, I say. I can see how pleased she is by my response. Since I've been home, I've been trying hard to mend my relationship with my mother, asking her to do things for me instead of brushing aside any offer of help, as I did for years out of anger. Letting her handle all the money I won, returning her hugs instead of tolerating them. My time in the arena made me realize how I needed to stop punishing her for something she couldn't help, specifically the crushing depression she fell into after my father's death. Because some things happen to people, and they're not equipped to deal with them. Like me, for instance, right now. Besides, there's one wonderful thing she did when I arrived back in the district. After our families and friends had greeted Peta and me at the train station, there were a few questions allowed from the reporters. Someone asked my mother what she thought of my new boyfriend. And she replied that while Peta was the very model of what a young man should be, I wasn't old enough to have any boyfriend at all. She followed this with a pointed look at Peta. There was lots of laughter and comments like, "Somebody's in trouble," from the press, and Peter dropped my hand and sidestepped away from me. That didn't last long. There was too much pressure to act otherwise. But it gave us an excuse to be a little bit more reserved than we had been in the Capitol. And maybe it can help account for how little I've seen in Peter's company since the cameras left. I go upstairs to the bathroom where a steaming tub awaits. My mother has added a small bag of dried flowers that perfume the air. None of us are used to the luxury of turning on the tap and having a limitless supply of hot water at our fingertips. We only had cold at our home in the scene, and a bath meant boiling water over boiling the rest over a fire. I undress and lower myself into the silky water. My mother has poured some kind of oil as well, and try to get a grip on things. The first question is, who to tell, if anyone. Not my mother or Prim, obviously. They'd only become sick with worry. Not even Gail. Even if I could get a word to him, what would he do with the information anyway? If he were alone, I might try to persuade him to run away. Certainly he could survive in the woods. But he's not alone, and he'd never leave his family or me. When I get home, I'll have to tell him something about why our Sundays are a thing of the past. But I can't think about that now. Only about my next move. Besides, Gail's already so angry and frustrated with the Capitol that I sometimes think he's going to arrange his own uprising. The last thing he needs is incentive. No, I can't tell anyone I'm leaving behind in District 12. There are still 3 people I might confide in, starting with Cinna, my stylist. But my guess is Cinna might already be at risk, and I don't want to pull him into any more trouble by closer association with me. Then there's Peta, who will be my partner in this deception. But how do I begin that conversation? Hey, Peta, remember how I told you I was kind of faking being in love with you? Well, I really need you to forget about that now and act extra in love with me. Or the president might kill Gail. I can't do it. Besides, Peter will perform well whether he knows what's at stake or not. That leaves Hamish. Drunken, cranky, confrontational Hamish, who I just poured a basin of ice water on. As my mentor in the games, it was his duty to keep me alive. I only hope he's still up for the job. I slide down into the water, letting it block out the sounds around me. I wish the tub would expand so I could go for a swim, like I used to on the hot summer days in the woods with my father. Those days were a special treat. We would leave early in the morning and hike further into the woods than usual to a small lake he found while hunting. I don't even remember learning to swim. I was so young when he taught me. I just remember diving, turning somersaults, paddling around, the muddy bottom of the lake beneath my toes, the smell of blossoms and greenery, floating on my back as I am now, staring at the blue sky while the clatter of the woods was muted by the water.